There's a series of television commercials lately that deals with buying cars, and it's an internet website, and the point being that you can now shop for cars without drama. Okay. My life used to be full of drama, and I figured out that most of the time it was mainly because of my own doing. And apparently there are people that appreciate, even seek out, expect drama over most of what they do in life. And this seems to be the case with our military commander name. Apparently, he not only expected for the prophet Elisha to come and cause a big dramatic spectacle over him, but he was actually angry for the prophet to disrespect him by not causing a big hullabaloo. You know, he was feeling down because nobody made a fuss over him, and he expected that was what was supposed to happen. And why, this old man didn't even have the courtesy to come out of his own house to the door where Naaman stood waiting for him. Must have really stung. I mean, this soldierly man used to having people jump whenever he barked orders. So, it seems that because no one was willing to pay him the proper respect, he decided to have his own little pity party. I thought that he would surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God, wave his hand over the spot, and cure me of my leprosy. Really arrogant. Surely everyone must know that he had humbled himself even to come to this man's door for help. And of course everyone knew that Israel was not even a respectable part of the world. Are not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than any of the waters of Israel? Couldn't I wash him down and be cleansed? So he turned and went off in a rage. You ever felt like that? Ask the children this morning. You ever got yourself all worked up? Maybe angry enough to spit because you felt somehow disrespected? Well, there are times when you should be angry, even ferocious, but never out of control. There are times when we should shout at the world to express our outrage at persons or events which are not right. There are plenty of examples of uncontrolled anger, even in the best of us. Henry Ward Beecher once said, "A man that does not know how to be angry does not know how to be good. A man that does not know how to be shaken to his heart's core with indignation over things evil is either a fungus or a wicked man." There's a good example of that in Alexander the Great. Probably one of the few people in history that actually deserved the title given him. Great. He was able to accomplish many things, and his military conquests were incredible. But he had this burning hatred inside of him, and every now and again it got out of control. There was this one time when a general friend of his that was a childhood friend decided to get drunk one day and stood before his men and was disrespecting the emperor. And Alexander the Great got upset about that and picked up a spear and chucked it at him. Unfortunately, his aim was good, and he killed his best friend. He was not affected by any of the casualties of the war campaigns, but the slaying of his childhood friend caused him great distress. He was sickened for days, calling out for his friend to come and join him, and he considered himself a murderer because of that. He had trouble controlling his inner demons. Aristotle once said, anyone can become angry, that's easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, and in the right way, that is not easy. So what makes you angry? I'm not talking about the person that takes credit for your work on your job, or the guy who cuts you off on the road. Yeah, these things can raise your blood pressure a bit, but that's not what we're talking about. I mean, pound the table angry, crying out, angry enough to get up and do something. I can get pound the table angry. I have. When I look around and see how the world treats Christians, but I don't really know what to do about that, or what I can do about that. So I'm not to that get up and do something part about that yet. But what lights the fire in you? At a commencement speech at the University of Michigan, Lee Iacocca, who was the chairman of Chrysler Motors, said, I want you to get mad about the current state of affairs. I want you to get so mad that you kick your elders in the figurative posteriors and move America off dead center. Our nation was born when 56 patriots got mad enough to sign the Declaration of Independence, and we put a man on the moon because Sputnik made us so mad at being number 2 in the space race. Getting mad is a constructive way. It's good for the soul and good for the country. Okay, there's all that. And then there's Naaman. Very important man in the sight of his master and stricken with leprosy. Come all the way down to Israel, of all places, just to be mistreated by some old smelly old man. And it took the cool, calm reasoning of an unnamed slave girl to help him get over it. This woman who served Naaman's wife was from Israel. She had faith in God, and she believed God's prophet Elisha could and would cure her master. When Naaman finished with his outbursts, got over venting, it says Naaman's servants went to him and said, my father, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? How much more then when he tells you, wash and be cleansed? The story of Naaman kind of reminds me, I once worked for a man that, he's the kind of guy that only wanted the gaudiest, the biggest things. He drove an old beat-up Rolls Royce, and he parked it outside the front of the business on the sidewalk, just to let everybody know that he drove a Rolls Royce. He was that kind of a guy. And one day we were upgrading the computers in the business. It was a direct mail company, so computers for list management, mailings and stuff like that. And he was visibly disappointed in this new computer. It was faster and it was much more powerful than the older computer, but it was smaller. And it didn't need any special treatment. You didn't have to put it in a cold room. You didn't have to do much of anything, stick it on a desk, and it worked just fine for you. And it was kind of a joke going around that if somebody figured out a way to put wings on it, he would be happy. And that was him. And I don't think he was ever really happy, because there's always something bigger that he didn't have. But when you get back to Naaman, he was smart enough to listen to this girl's logical argument. So he went down and he dipped himself in the Jordan 7 times as the man of God had told him, and his flesh was restored and became clean like that of a young boy. Now, here's where our Old Testament scriptures end for this morning, but if you finish reading the 5th chapter, it's an incredible story. You'll read about displaying deep appreciation, respect, a desire to provide wealth for miracle, and even you'll see a bit of personal greed. The one thing that I want to highlight is that Naaman was greatly impressed with the miraculous healing. He returned to Elisha with great humility. Gone was the "he didn't do enough for me" attitude. And he swore to Elisha that he would make offerings and sacrifices only to this God from this point on. And he did want to give Elisha much wealth, which was his to give, but Elisha refused any reward and told Naaman to go in peace. Apparently, the military man had enough sense to realize how much God had showed him mercy. And I would also like to believe that he would not be so quick next time to go to anger, possibly to accept the unexpected a little easier. Our lesson this morning is in the humility. Naaman showed humility after finding that the one living true God of the universe cared enough to cure him, a non-believer. One more lesson comes from our New Testament Galatians. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. You can take that as a threat, or you can take that as a simple fact. Naaman did not mock God. He did not mock the prophet. He only mocked what he perceived as being disrespectful treatment. And it wasn't until he was able to hear the cool, calm, soothing words of his slave girl, a prisoner taken from her homeland. She was removed from Israel, but Israel was not removed from her. She remembered her faith in God, and she remembered what God's prophet could do. And we're not given any more information about what happened to Naaman or his household. We can be reasonably confident that this nameless girl would most likely have been elevated to a higher standing in the household after this. And I would also like to believe that Naaman shared his new-found faith with those whom he came in contact, possibly even being responsible for others coming to believe in the Lord of life. May it also be so for you and me. While we may not have been cured miraculously, we have been given so many blessings. In this country, we have the blessings of freedom. We can say what's on our mind. We can do what's in our hearts, at least for now. And we can become anything we want in this country. And just as with Naaman, we should show humility when we come and sing praises to God, to the Lord, knowing that we can never adequately repay God for all he has done, but we should be able to offer up our praises, our hymns of thanks, our offerings, possibly sacrifices, not in blood, but in work for the Lord, without hesitation, but with a joyful heart. And may it be so until the Lord returns.